After Xiong Tu Lo was dismissed of his position as Tossing by the French, his mother and younger brother Phai Dao Lo Blayo both appealed to the mayor of Mong Cam, and also to the French commissioner in Xian Koang, but without success. Phai Dao Lo Blayo, fearing that the Lo clan would lose power, decided to run for the position of Tossing, and petitioned to the Lao Prince Phetsarath, at the royal palace, at Luang Prabang, and gave the Prince Rhino Horn as an inducement for support for Phai Dao Lo Blayo to get the position of Tossing. Prince Phetsarath gave him his word, and promised that he would make Phai Dao Lo Blayo Tossing of Nong Het. Tu Bi Li Fong also applied for the Tossing position, and was the French favor, since Tu Bi Li Fong was a well-educated person. Tu Bi Li Fong graduated from Vientiane with a degree in law and administrative. Then he continued his education in Hue, Vietnam, and graduated with a degree in agriculture. Then he went to study in Paris, France, continuing his in law school study. He studied in Paris for 3 years, and would have had graduated if he had stayed 1 more year, but once the Tossing position was open for the grab in 1939, he decided to return back home to run for the position as Tossing. Tu Bi Li Fong was the first Hmong to be educated at such a high level. He was so accustomed to the city life and the Western life that he was known to always be wearing Western-style suit, and stood out from the Hmong people and easy to recognize in public. In September 1939, Tu Bi Li Fong won the position as Tossing of Nong Het. This became the downfall of the Lo clan, and the rise of the Li clan into power under Tu Bi Li Fong. Tu Bi Li Fong in 1939 negotiated with the French to open the first elementary school in the Hmong community. In 1940, as the Hmong people became more and more wealthier from the opium cultivation, the French raised the yearly tax tribute since the Hmong can afford it, and it also forced the Hmong to cultivate even more opium, maximizing the Hmong opium cultivation quantity to the highest level possible. In June of 1940, France was captured by the German Nazi. Seeing the weakening of the French control in Indochina, Prime Minister Plaek Phibun Songkhram of Thailand saw the opportunity for Thailand to regain territory in Indochina that Thailand had lost to the French in the early 1900s. Prime Minister Plaek Phibun Songkhram was also Field Marshal of the Thai military at that time. On October 1940, Thailand invaded the territory of the Old Kingdom of Vientiane, and invaded the Lao Kingdom of Champasak under Lao King Ratsadana. The Thai invasion force consisted of over 60,000 troops, 130 tanks, and over 140 aircraft. The fighting at Vientiane between the French and the Thai was intense, with aircraft from both sides dropping bomb on both positions. The situation turned in early 1941, when the French Navy defeated the Thai Navy, which threatened the Thai coastline. Fearing that the French forces would gain momentum, Japan interfered, and negotiated a peace term which was mostly in the favor for Thailand. Japan also deployed Japanese troops into Indochina on July 28, 1941, to put pressure on the French to agree to the deal. The Japanese term was for French to hand over the territories of Sayaburi and the Lao Kingdom of Champasak to Thailand. The French troops in Indochina did not like the term, but the French government back home had ordered French troops in Indochina to comply to the Japanese terms, and to allow Japanese troops to move freely throughout Indochina. When the Japanese troops entered Nong Het, the Japanese demanded food, particularly meat, from the Hmong people, and put pressure on Tu Bi Li Fong as Tossing of Nong Het to round up food from his Hmong people for the Japanese. Meanwhile, Phai Dao Lo Blayo and his Hmong follower happily supported the Japanese. At this time, Tu Bi Li Fong have been secretly contacting the French through secret message, which he used a little Hmong boy to send the message back and forth, and that little 13-year-old boy was Vang Pao. Japan invaded Thailand on December 8, 1941, and after 5 hours of fighting between the two armies, both sides came to an armistice and military alliance treaty that saw Thailand become a part of the Axis power, and Japanese troops was allowed to travel through Thailand. With the French lack of power in Indochina, the Royal Lao began making their move in 1942. The Lao Kingdom of Luang Prabang, under Lao King Sisavang Vong, order members of the royal to seize the province of Xianquan, and the territory of the old Lao kingdom of Vientiane. Prince Phetsurath, along with his Lao Isara troops, was put in charge of seizing Xianquan, and he decided to align with the Japanese because he did not like the French. Meanwhile, royal members from the kingdom of Luang Prabang heading to the territory of the old kingdom of Vientiane were actively fighting against the Japanese. The Lao kingdom of Luang Prabang was not the only Lao kingdom that were making a move. The Lao kingdom of Champasak, under Lao King Ratsadane, also ordered their royal members to seize the territory of the old kingdom of Vientiane, and they also fought against the Japanese. In August of 1944, as France was liberated by the Allies, French General de Gaulle began laying the ground for a free French resistance in Indochina. On December 25, 1944, French commandos were airdropped into Cang Kai near the Plain of Jars, to make contact with the French garrison in Cang Kai. When French commando Maurice Gautier made contact with the French garrison at Cang Kai, they told him to go make contact with 2B Lifong in Nong Het for the Hmong support. When Maurice Gautier went to Nong Het, and made contact with 2B Lifong for support, he did not hesitate, and agreed to support the French against the Japanese. Hmong tossing 2B Lifong along with his half-brother Tu Li, and Chia Xe Mua lead their Hmong troops to support the French commando. Vang Pao, at the age of 15 years old, also participated, and went with 2B Lifong and his Hmong troops. French commando Maurice Gautier have never even heard of the Hmong people before until he reached Xianquan.
I was extremely impressed by the Hmong hard work, speed, service, toughness, endurance, and warm hospitality.
February 1945, both the United States and Soviet Union refused to endorse the French return to Indochina. March 9, 1945, Japanese military in Indochina began to attack French installations throughout Indochina without warning. In Laos, many French civilians ran to the mountains and hid among the Hmong people as the Japanese were searching and hunting down the French fugitive and their wives and children. Many of French families that hide among the Hmong people were saved by the Hmong people who helped to hide them, and helped transported them to cross into China for safety. The Japanese also went after Hmong people that were suspected of helping the French. Hmong that were suspected of working for the French were shot on sight. More Japanese troops from Hanoi, Vietnam was sent into Laos to deal with the French and their stubborn Hmong supporter. 2B Lifong Hmong troops combined with Maurice Gautier French commandos, conducted ambush against the Japanese supply routes, and blew up bridges to slow down the Japanese. French commando Maurice Gautier stated,
"The Hmong armed group was able to hit as many as 3 enemy targets in a single day in different locations, and because of that the Japanese thought there were thousands of French commando in the area, but in reality it was just a few hundreds of barefoot mountain Hmong warriors. The Hmong armed group are not soldiers, because they are not disciplined, but they were warriors because they're brave, tough, and they fight on their own terms, not on mine. The most feared Hmong warrior was Chom Tua Mua. He was about the same age as me, and an inch shorter than me. He was a opium addict guy, but also a proud, barefoot, and clever man."
Meanwhile, Phai Dao Lo Blaio led his Hmong troops to support the Japanese, and fought against the French and 2B Lifong Hmong troops. The war had brought disagreement within the Royal Lao members, which saw Royal Lao members fighting on both sides of the war, some supporting the Japanese, while some were fighting against the Japanese. On April 8, 1945, the Japanese forced the King of Luang Prabang, King Sisavang Vong, to declare Laos independent, and Laos independent became recognized on international level. Some members and princes of the Royal Lao saw the Japanese as liberator that freed them from the French.